right, we're going to do an all boon tier list for Hades 2. This is totally objective. Definitely not subjective at all. My opinions about how these boons are in the game, and it's totally going to make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? But here, we'll do our best. Nova Strike from Apollo. Pretty good. Strong. Good for certain weapons, like the axe, I'm thinking mostly. I think it's a solid choice a good percentage of the time. Really depends on the weapon, though. Nova Flourish, probably even better. Oftentimes, I find it might depend a little bit on my... again, it just depends so heavily on the weapon, but they're generally pretty good. Solar Ring, I don't really like it. I don't take it very often. The enemies might not be in there at the end. The base damage is pretty good, but what can you do? Blinding Rush, weirdly great boon, despite it not doing any damage. It just applies daze and gives you some move speed, but just the fact that it applies a curse so easily from dashing around, plus daze is a pretty good effect. I think it's just weirdly amazing for a dash boon. Is it S tier? It might be S tier for now. Lucid Gain, good for certain things, not so good for other things. I think it's a decent B. That's the magic regen. Light Smite, you deal that's like the Vengeance boon from Apollo. There's some times where it's okay, sometimes where it's not. I think you probably shouldn't take it too often. Perfect Image, you deal more damage if you haven't taken any damage in a while. It's just not on as often as you probably want, and the percentage isn't that high. I think we're gonna drop it and see. Dazzling Display is probably the worst boon in the game. Chance to apply daze to your foes with your attack only if you have Nova Strike. Totally pointless. I don't get it at all. Backburner, you deal more damage to enemies from behind if they have daze on them. I think I overvalue it, honestly. The percentage can get quite high, but you can't really rely on it. Sometimes I think I overvalue it. Prominence Flare, it's not as good as you think. Your Omega Cast spawns like some kind of whirlwind effect, basically, is the best way I can describe it. Deals damage over time. It's a fun boon, but I don't think it's a particularly good boon. Supernova. Am I going to rate Supernova higher than Prominence Flare? Well, the problem with Prominence Flare is more so that there's very few builds where you actually make use of the Omega Cast, whereas Supernova affects both kinds of the cast, so I feel like that's actually better, but not by a lot. It doesn't do that much, is the truth. Yeah, the bigger issue, it's not that this is a bad boon, there's just not a lot of builds where it actually does anything, right? Extra Dose, there's a chance that your attack strikes twice or something like that. It's not very good. I think it's worse than all those. Is it F? I don't think it's F. Self-healing, that's the infusion. You restore a little bit of health after you take a hit. It's a solid boon, right? It's a solid take. I think I like it, right? I think I like it. You restore some health back. It's good. Exceptional Talent doubles your Omegas. Absolutely amazing. Probably the best legendary, the most fun legendary that we have in the game, right? It works with almost every aspect to some degree or another. And it gives you almost a big variety for each weapon, too. It's so good. And again, the main thing is that it's so much fun because every weapon feels like much stronger and very different also, I gotta say. It's just so good. All right, we're on to Demeter. Ice Strike, that's her attack boon. It's pretty weak, honestly. It might even belong in F because the percentage is so low. And even though the freeze effect is good, you just probably shouldn't take it. Because what you should do is just take her cast instead. Ice Flourish is probably just slightly better than it, I'm thinking. But not really. I think you really want to avoid her attack and special, because you can just get better damage, and instead, you take Arctic Ring, which pumps all the way up. Is it an S? I'm going to give it a very high A, I think. Because it's just so good. It slots into the cast so perfectly. You freeze foes with that instead. And then it feels like such a waste to fill in your attack or special slot with this. You know what I mean? Frigid Rush, I don't really like it. It's the Arctic Gale of your dash, basically. I kind of don't like it. But, I mean, it's got that air quality business, but I don't know. I think, is that F-worthy? Oh no, Demeter is gonna sting here, I gotta say. I don't know if it's F-worthy. It might be F-worthy. It's not F-worthy. Tranquil Gain, that's her magic regen, makes you stand still. I hate using it, but it's not bad, is what I'll say. I'll admit it's not bad. I hate using it, though. Arctic Gale, it's just good for the curse, mostly. That's mostly all you'd use it for. You wouldn't use it for damage. So that's like the other cast boon, basically. So it works really well to proc origination, right? I'm thinking, is it B? It's probably B. Plentiful Forward to restore some health when you pick up stuff. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good for some health regen, right? But it doesn't really serve in high fear runs where this might be more important. And you tend to have Wayward Sun on. I still think it's like okay, though. I'm gonna drop it there. Steady Growth, it's kind of a trap. Sorry, chat. I know you love your steady growth. I feel like it's a trap boon. It doesn't do that much. It's too random. And unless you get a high rarity, it's exceptionally bad, I think. Sorry, rip. Snow Queen, you block one hit, but you prime some magic. It serves a purpose in quite a few runs, I think. It's not so bad. You might have to worry about the magic a little bit, though, right? I think it's pretty good. Would I prefer it over Plentiful Forage? Kind of depends. It's around there, though. Weed Killer. It has its purpose in runs. You deal more damage with your Omega attack, but it costs more magic. It has its purposes. There's quite a few runs where it's pretty good, I think. I think it belongs in B, right? Local Climate. Your Omega cast deals more damage, and then even more if you're in it. There's just too few runs where this is useful. Kind of similar to Prominence Flare, so I'm going to drop it right next to it. Cold Storage. Your freeze effect lasts longer. It's a funny boon, but it's really not useful, I'd say, for the most part. It just feels like a waste of a take, honestly. I just don't think it's worth taking for the most part, half the time. So, it's kind of an F. It's kind of an F, honestly. Maybe it's not an F. Frosty Veneer. You take less damage, basically. It's her infusion boon. I mean, if you activate it, it's really good. It's kind of hard to activate, though. It requires 6 water, right? Which is not easy. Frosty Veneer, huh? It is strong, though, so the question is, do I have to consider the prereqs for these things or not? I guess I'm not going to consider the prereqs too much there. In that case, it's very good, I'd say. Winter Harvest, that's their legendary. Enemies die at like 10% or something like that, right? They shatter. It's all right. It's not really worth going out of your way for. The problem with it is more the prereqs, but if I'm basing it mostly on just the effect, I think it belongs in A, at least. I mean, it's hard to deny. It's a legendary boon, right? It's not bad. Heaven Strike. So this is Zeus, and we got the Blitz on the attack. Hestia. The Blitz just fits into too many builds. It slots in so easily. You know what I mean? Heaven Flourish, that's the special. It's even better than that, I would say. Put it up there. Boom. Storm Ring. Excellent cast boon. Fits in almost everywhere. It's weird that this cast boon is so good. It just happens to deal a lot of damage, and it works well with, like, the duo boon, right? King's Ransom. It's weird that it's good when it doesn't apply a curse, though, I'll admit. And you really need to rely on your cast to apply a curse half the time, though, I'll admit. But Storm Ring, it just deals quite a bit of damage, surprisingly. Thunder Rush is pretty bad. You could go for a meme run with King's Ransom, but it's bad, I'd say, on average. Doesn't apply a curse, and it's just not enough damage to be interesting. Ionic Gain, it's a decent magic regen. I would prefer to take it over Tranquil Gain, but not even that much more. I just hate the fact that I have to hit the button a little bit in the heat of the combat, you know what I mean? Power Surge whenever you use an Omega, or is it whenever you spend magic? I think it's whenever you spend magic, a lightning bolt appears. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Is it worse than Thunder Rush? Kind of. There's just very few builds. Like, there's the, what is it? Mirrored Thrasher for the staff? That's like the only time where this is maybe okay, honestly. It's bad. It's very bad. Divine Vengeance, that's the Vengeance boon. So you deal 100 damage. Chance to proc it multiple times. You could up it with success rate or something like that. It's all right. It's not a bad boon. It's not a bad boon. Lightning Lance. Lightning Lance is getting pumped out here. I think Lightning Lance and Glowing Coal are going to be an often take here, especially for just a casual run. Just being able to throw the cast feels really good, and it's a decent chunk of damage, too. Can we all agree? I think it's actually really strong. Static Shock, I'm sorry, everyone, but you're all overrating Static Shock. It's okay, but if you're doing a run where you're actually utilizing Omegas and magic, it's going to be a lot worse, okay? And if you're one of those players that refuses to use Omegas because you don't like the system or whatever, that's not my fault, you know what I mean? Static Shock is okay, though, I will say. It's often pretty good, I will admit. But I think people often overrate it. Double Strike, so chance that your Blitz effects, Blitz, Lightning Lance, Storm Ring, Thunder Rush, Power Surge, all those things have a chance to proc twice. Very good. I mean, it probably belongs in S since Blitz is an S then. Whereas, weirdly, Arc Flash, which just, if you use an Omega on an enemy that has Blitz on it, it'll proc it immediately and it'll be stronger. It's weird. It doesn't work like how you'd hope. There's kind of an animation cooldown on the Blitz procking, so you can't make it happen too quickly. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know if it's F. It's hard for me to measure, honestly. Electric Overload to make Static Shock better, basically. God, it's just so, there's so few builds where you've used this, right? You only get it if you have Static Shock, right? Unless I'm misremembering it and there is something else here, but I'm not so sure, honestly. I think it has to go in F, not really because, well, okay, I'm just going to base it on the effect. In that case, I don't know, low C probably for it. Air quality, it's usually a trap. There's just too few builds where it makes sense. If you have Arctic Gale, if you have Frigid Rush, if you have Static Shock, if you have Support Fire, or something along those lines, you know, I guess. But it requires too much wind, and it's not that big of a difference half the time. It's a fun run. It's not good, though. It's not a good thing to aim for. It doesn't help you win at the end of the day. Does that make sense? It doesn't help you win at the end of the day. I think that's the problem with it. You're never going to have a run where it's like, oh, air quality will save this run. It's usually more like, I'm going to force an air quality run for funniness, you know? Shocking Loss, the legendary from Zeus. I like it better than Winter Harvest by a little bit. Probably not by a ton, though. I think it's pretty good. Chance to kill enemies instantly when you hit them. Do I like it better? You know what? I changed my mind. It's going over there. It's going over there instead. I changed my mind. All right, Poseidon. Poseidon's attack does some splash damage. I got bad news, Poseidon. You're not that great half the time. I feel like you're not that great half the time. So when would you take Poseidon's attack? Aspect of Hell? Yeah, see what I mean? Yeah, you see what I mean? It's probably not Demeter quality, though, at the same time. There's a few more instances where you take his special, though. I think I'm going to throw him in the Bs. I'm going to throw the special in the B. It's a little bit better. Tidal Ring is a great cast boon, though. It applies a curse, and it's high damage. It's very nice. I think it's very nice. It's a good cast boon up there. Probably... Would I put it above Arctic Ring? I don't think so. I'll put it right about there or something like that. You know what I mean? Breaker Rush, that's his dash. It's okay in some instances, but for the most part, it's not great. It kind of messes with the enemy's placement and pushes them away. I kind of don't like it most of the time. The base damage is high. I'll drop it in a low C. Flood Gain is actually a good magic regen, I think, for the most part. It kind of scales with high magic spending boons as well. I like it better than Lucid Gain half the time, but not significantly. I think I'm going to drop it there. Hydraulic Might feels like kind of a waste of a take half the time. You deal more attack and special damage at the beginning of an encounter. I think it's, you know, I think there's just usually better things. It's just too often there are better things than it. You know what I mean? It's not worse than Power Surge. I'll give it that much. Okay, I'm going to drop it there. Buried Treasure, you earn more money. You get a little bit of health back right then and there. Yeah. Weirdly, I would a lot of times take Buried Treasure over it. I'll admit it. High Surf, when an enemy goes to attack you, they take damage. A little bit of damage. It's usually quite a small amount. And you prime some magic. It's... I don't know. There's instances where you can see it pop a little bit, but by the end of a run, it just doesn't deal enough to be impactful. So it's kind of not worth thinking about. It'll, like, if you get it, like, in Erebus in the first zone, it'll kill those small enemies kind of easily. Oceanus as well. But I don't know. A lot of things do anyway. I'd still put it above some of these other things. Throw it right in the middle. Sea Star. I'm going to come out and say it. I don't think Sea Star's that bad, and it's fun. I know I make fun of y'all for liking it so much, but I think it's not that bad, and more importantly, it's really fun. So the fun factor is going to boost it a little bit. I'm going to tell you that much. The fun factor is going to boost it a little bit for you. Slippery Slopes. It only works if you have uses attack or special, so I can't really rate it better than those. So I'm just going to drop it somewhere in the middle of C. That's the one where if you have his attack or special, your splash effects will now apply Froth, right? It's just it's kind of a lot of work to have to get a second boon like that. You kind of don't like it, you know? Geyser Spout. Your Omega cast has more power and will deal more damage. Once again, you're kind of struck with this problem where there are not a ton of aspects or builds where you're going to want to use your Omega cast. But the ones where you do use it, you want Geyser Spout. You need Geyser Spout. You got to be spouting out here. So this is more of like, when you want Geyser Spout, it's up here. You know what I mean? When you don't want Geyser Spout, it's down here. So that's sort of the issue with it. But when you want it, it's up here. But when you don't want it, it's down there. But when you need it, it's going to be so good. Ocean Swell. You spend more magic for every Omega, but you send out a tidal wave. It deals out a decent chunk of damage. It's pretty good. These builds that use more magic are pretty spicy. I like them a lot. I like them a lot, honestly. It's not S, that's for sure. Does it belong in A? It might belong in A. Do we think it's A? I think it's A. I think it goes up in A. It's not that high up. It's up there, though. Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, yeah, sure. Water fitness, you get 15 max health for every water boon you have. I mean, when you think about it from a casual perspective, this should be something that you take very often. I mean, that should be like a pretty chunky amount of health, honestly. Is it S tier? The thing is, even if it only gives you 30 health, it's pretty good, right? But most of the time, if you're taking this, it's giving you 45, 60, or more, legitimately. I think you should be taking a lot of the time. I think you should be taking a lot of time. If your goal is just to have a run where you win, it makes sense. You know what I mean? It just makes sense. I mean, I guess if you know you're not getting any more water and it's your last boon or something like that, and it's only giving you 30, then you wouldn't take it. But I think that's about it. King Tide, that's his legendary. Your splash effects will deal double damage against bosses. This is another thing like Geyser Spout, where when you want it, it's good. But I don't know. I guess you wouldn't get it offered unless you want it too, right? I think when you do want it, it's going to be better than these other legendaries, but I don't feel like it's S tier. It doesn't bring a build from A tier to S tier. I don't think so. I don't think so, chat. Moving on to Hestia. Flame Strike. So her attack, huh? I think it's good. I think it's generally good. It's very middle of the road. I think it's very middle of the road. Obviously, it just strongly depends on... I think Scorch is just in a good place. It just strongly depends on your aspect and everything like that. Same thing with the special. Like, it can be quite good. I think we can all agree. You know what I mean? Smoldering, the cast is even better. Is it S tier? I think as time goes on, I prefer it over Arctic Ring. Not so much over Storm Ring, though. Well, yeah, over Storm Ring half the time. Yeah, I think it's a low S. There, I said it, chat. I think it's a low S. I think Scorch is good. Heat Rush, that's her dash boon. It's great with Supé, but it doesn't apply a curse. And you could actually see it pop a little bit, but you kind of got to work for it. Like, you kind of got to go out of your way to make it happen. I think so. I think just most runs you don't want it. I think most runs you just don't want it. It's around the same place. It's better than Thunder Rush, I'll give it that. So I don't think it deserves to be that low, I guess, right? I don't think it deserves to be that low. Okay, Cardio Gain, that's her magic regen. I mean, it's good under certain conditions, not so good in other conditions. I find myself not taking it anywhere near as often as some of these other magic regens, but it's often better than like Ionic Gain or Tranquil Gain, I'll say. Usually, if I want to get magic back, I just don't want to have to use an attack or a regular attack or a regular special to make it happen. I just want to spam Omegas over and over again. You know what I mean? Highly flammable. The first time you apply Scorch, you apply even more, but just the first time, right? It's just not a good take. There's usually too many other good things from Hestia to make it worthwhile. I mean, I take it from time to time, but honestly, it's probably an F. You know, you just don't usually need it. I think half the time. Glowing Cold, that's the other throwable cast. It's amazing. I kind of feel like it's better than Lightning Lance. I don't know. Lightning Lance has some good things, like Double Strike that'll help it out. It's also instant, unlike Glowing Coal, right? But Glowing Coal has 4th degree. You know, that's a dual boon there. They're roughly the same damage. I'm actually not sure here. They're very close. Maybe they're kissing each other. Okay. Uncontrolled Burn. When you use an Omega special, you send out a fireball, and it has insane damage. And the scaling with it per palm is insane as well. The scaling with it is insane. You can get that bad boy up to 500 damage without too much work, honestly. I think it's really good. However, it might miss if you're firing from a distance quite often. It also makes your your Omegas cost more. I almost want to put it in S, but truth be told, there's just probably too few runs where you want to make that happen. So it probably doesn't really deserve it. So I'm going to put it somewhere... I'm putting it above Stack Shock just to show you all who's boss. Flash Fry, it's a convenient boon. It's a nice quality of life boon. I don't think it's that big of a deal, though. The damage is kind of just not enough. I mean, it's decent early on, but then it falls off later. Kind of like High Surf or something like that. But it's better than a lot of the other ones, I will admit. I think it's better than some of the other ones. I'll put it right about there. Hot Pot. You get some dodge, and then you get even more dodge if the enemy has Scorch on it. It's hard to measure, really, you know? There's not a lot of instances where I want to take Hot Pot, I think. I guess, you know, it's so hard to rate how good dodge is in particular, honestly. So I'm gonna throw it somewhere. I think I like it better than some of these other ones, though, I'll say. Middle of the seas. Pyrotechnique, it makes your Scorch tick stronger. Basically, it's the easiest way. You use up the stacks more often. It doesn't necessarily tick more often. It's just that each tick uses more Scorch is the best way to describe it. It's good. It's good. You need a lot of Scorch to keep it up. But I guess if you're doing a Scorch build, I think you often want Pyrotechnique. I'm going to throw it up there. Snuffed Candle, deal more damage to isolated foes. I end up taking it pretty often, so I think I have to rate this quite highly. I think we have to. Oh, no. It's busting out here. We're busting. Might have to move someone down at this rate. You know what I mean? I think because it's just an easy take, it slots into every build, I think we have to put it up there. Slow Cooker, you get more power on your attacks and specials for each fire you have. There's some builds where this is very powerful, and there's some builds where it's not so meaningful. You probably don't care that much about it with an axe build where the base damage is quite high already. Whereas you do care a lot about it with like a dagger build where the base damage is quite low on the attack and special and you hit rapidly. That's where you'd want it. So when you want it, you really want it. You know what I mean? I'm throwing in an S. Fireway, that's a legendary. It eats up projectiles from enemies and applies Scorch to them. Yeah, I mean, it does something. I don't like it as much as the other legendaries. Not to mention, it's hard to get since you have to have her cast, right? I think it's just not as interesting, honestly. I don't think it's, like, the worst. I think the fact that it eats projectiles is probably the best part about it, but it just doesn't feel as useful as some other things, I honestly think. But in terms of an effect, I guess you can't deny it. You know what? I am going to deny it. It's going down into C tier. Boom. All right, Aphrodite's attack. Doesn't apply a curse, but it has the highest percentage you can get on the attack. I kind of feel like her attack is a bit of a trap, whereas Apollo's attack is pretty close to the same percentage, but you get a much bigger AoE from it, and you don't have to be close to the enemy either to make sure it triggers. Although if you're using an attack, usually you're going to be close anyway, right? But I think it's just not that good, weirdly. I think you should often not be taking her attack. Even if you're doing like an axe build, a lot of times Apollo will just feel better. I really do think. Nevertheless, it's still takeable. It's still something. You know what I mean? I'll put it down there. Where it has her special, the percentage is significantly higher than all the other ones. I think at Epic it's 250% at level 1, whereas an Apollo Epic is only like 120% maybe? It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference, I will say. Is it S? Might be S. Is it S? Might be S, honestly. Rapturing, that's her cast. Applies weak and pulls enemies in, deals a small amount of damage. It's just a nice cast boon. You're going to take it quite often. It's around the same place as Arctic Ring, I think. Passion Rush, that's her dash boon. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I mean, it applies a curse, so it's probably better than, like, Heat Rush. I just don't like it, you know what I mean? I don't like it at all. Glamour Gain. All right, here we go. It's free origination, chat. Don't you know? I mean, yeah, it is good, and sometimes it's enough magic. It kind of depends. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like to do heavy magic use builds, then Glamour Gain is going to be fine, right? Glamour Gain will serve you just fine. But also, it might be bad, you know, because if you're using the Huntress Arcana card, which requires you to not be at max magic in order to get 50% more attack and special damage, then you kind of don't want to be generating more magic just by being next to foes, right? But it does apply a curse for free, so it's still pretty decent in that purpose. So it belongs in like the Bs or something like that. Somewhere in there. Shameless Attitude, you deal more damage as long as you're at higher health. I think it starts at like 9% at Epic, and then it doubles it if you're above a certain amount of health, so it goes up to 18%. Is it 80% health or something like that? It's really good. I mean, it's definitely stronger than Snuffed Candle. It just slots into too many runs. And in fact, it's probably S tier because I think you should take it quite often. You know what I mean? Even if you're not at that high health, just getting like 10% global damage is pretty good. You know what I mean? It's pretty good. Spiritual Affirmation, you get more max health and more max magic. It's just a solid, kind of like Water Fitness. It's a good defensive boon that you should probably be taking most of the time if you're just trying to win the run. It's probably not going to be as good as water fitness, though, I will say. But am I going to still drop it in the S? I think I might. Healthy rebound, which is a weird one. It's like if you are at least 60% health, you will recover back to 100% health. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's weird, chat. I don't like it one bit. I'm moving power surge down. Broken resolve. Enemies with weak will deal even less damage. I never find the opportunity to take it, but it does. I think it has a function. I'll give it that much at least, but I never really want to take it. Sweet surrender. Enemies with weak take more damage. I mean, it's a good one. It's only going to get offered if you have something that applies weak to the enemies. So it's generally going to be pretty good because you probably have Rapture Ring or Glamour Gain or something, right? So under that effect, I think it's probably pretty solid. It's interesting that I don't really like Broken Resolve, but it's harder to measure something like that, I think, because of that. I think Sweet Surrender belongs in A tier then at this rate. Heartbreaker, you summon a Heartthrob when you use at least 40 magic, but the damage is not that high, I'm afraid. If you're using like the Jeweled Palm keepsake and you get a Heartbreaker, it feels pretty good. I think it feels pretty good. They kind of killed the Heartbreakers, the Heartthrobs a long time ago, and the dual boons behind it just kind of, it doesn't feel like it's worth the squeeze or whatever the kids say nowadays, right? So it might fit into a build, but half the time I think it kind of doesn't. I think I'm going to drop it somewhere around there. That sounds pretty good to me. We're going to have to zoom out. I think we're going to have to zoom out a touch here now. Secret Crush. Your attacks gain more power, but you prime a little bit of magic. The number's kind of low. I think at Epic it's like 9 power. And like that's okay for like the dagger a little bit. That hits quite rapidly, but for most other things, it's just too little. You're often not going to want to take this, I think. I think it's a bit too infrequently that you're going to want to take it, but it's probably better than a lot of these other ones. Wispy Wilds, that's the infusion boon. For each wind you have, you gain 2% dodge. Wind is pretty good when you have Zeus boons rated so highly here, right? And then you have some decent Aphrodite boons that give you wind too. So I think Wispy Wilds is actually pretty good, but it's not, I think it's a bit more conditional than like water fitness personally. If you're getting water fitness offered, I feel like I take it a lot more often than if Wispy Wilds gets offered. But I'll be putting this up here somewhere. Nervous Wreck, that's our legendary. When you apply weak to enemies, it'll apply 3 other random status effects, I believe, right? It's actually pretty good. Sometimes I complain about it. It's particularly good if you don't already have Blitz in the build. I think the effect is powerful enough that you should probably rank it at S. It is, again, kind of hard to measure. There's some duds, right? So if you trigger it and it puts like 2 Scorch on the enemy, that doesn't do shit for you. You know what I mean? If it applies Arctic Gale or whatever that's called, that's not very good. If it applies Freeze, probably not very good. Furnace Glow is okay. Hitch is generally quite good, but it's probably good enough to throw it up there. Weak only lasts for 3 seconds, I believe, naturally, so that's a pretty short one. All right, we're on to Hef. Now, this is where it's kind of interesting, right? Because if you're aiming for a Hef build at the start of your run, and you want his attack or special, and you're going to make sure you get a good rarity, and you're going to palm the crap out of it, S tiers. S tiers down the line, right? Meanwhile, if you start a run with other keepsakes, or you don't really plan for Hef, he's pretty weak. Borderline F tier, you know what I mean? So the question is, how often should you be taking it, Hef's attack or special? It depends on the rarity that gets offered more than anything else, you know what I mean? But he has a capability of being incredibly strong. I think the attack is worthy of S, personally. I think the attack is worthy of S, whereas the cooldown on the special is too high, and you probably don't want it very often. And that goes all the way down to C tier, I think, at this point. I believe. I mean, if you get the duo boons, then you're pumping, right? But if you're going to do a Hef build, then you're probably going to want to take his attack more than anything else, you know? Anvil Ring, that's his cast boon. I don't think it's good, honestly. I think you just so rarely would take this. You know, we've done some Mimi runs with it, and it works with Winter Circle, but that's like the only thing. I think it belongs all the way down in F. It doesn't apply a curse. You can't make it apply a curse. It's not good. I really do think. I think it's not good. Smithy Rush is even worse It's like his attack and special. Cooldown's too long. The damage is too low. It doesn't apply a curse unless you get Furnace Glow. I think that's even worse, honestly. I think it's really bad. It's not worth... You need palms in his attack and special to make it good. Therefore, you also need palms in his dash to make it good, but it's just not worth it at the end of the day. Not good. Tough game. You just don't want it most of the time, right? I guess if you're all set for curses and you don't care that much about magic, you could take it. I don't think you take it most runs, though. I take it even less often than most of these other boons here. I think it goes all the way down here. Grand Caldera. So if you're doing a Hef build, Grand Caldera is excellent. So I should probably just put it like next to Volcanic Strike, you know? It's just really good. Makes your Hef Blast just deal more damage, that's all. Molten Touch. You deal more damage to armored enemies with your attacks and specials, or just attack and special maybe. So it doesn't apply to things like Blitz or Splash. I think it's just not very good. It just doesn't usually help often. I don't think it's quite F, though. I don't think it's quite F, but I'll admit it's close, honestly. Heavy Metal. So you gain a bunch of armor right then and there, and you deal a little bit more damage. Based on the armor you have. Yeah, based on the armor that you have. I don't know. It's never really that good, you know? It's like 20% of the armor that you have. Yeah, it's just kind of not worth it. But it's a decent defensive. I find myself taking it from time to time. So I think it's still okay, you know? It probably belongs somewhere up here, if I were to guess. Trusty Shield is much better. You gain a little bit of armor at the beginning of every chamber, which basically means you get a free hit. Possibly 2, possibly even 3, maybe, right? He's primed a little bit of magic for it, though. I think it belongs in S. It's probably one of the best defensives that you can pick up without any conditions or anything like that. Security System. So you start with some armor at the beginning of a chamber and it wears off after 7 seconds. It's not very good. Part of the problem is that if you have the Lover's Arcana card that blocks the first 3 hits in a boss battle, you lose that before Security System. So if you have the Lovers on, Security System feels not very good, particularly for the bosses, right? I think it just doesn't feel good. It's way worse than half these other ones, but I'd probably take it more often than Heavy Metal, but not by a whole lot. Better than Fire Away? Maybe not better than Fire Away. Uncanny Fortitude. You gain a certain percentage of your magic as max health. Max magic as max health. It's a good pickup. I mean, it's up there with like Spiritual Affirmation and Water Fitness, but probably not quite as good since the condition is that you want to have a lot of max magic with it, right? So it's probably not worthy of being up there with the S's, I think. But it's a pretty solid take half the time. Furnace Blast. I mean, if you're doing a Hef build, Furnace Blast feels nice, but it's probably not really worth aiming for it or hoping for it as much as it is. It only lasts for 3 seconds. This is his curse. Enemies take more damage after you hit them with a blast, but it only lasts for a few seconds. So it's not a great curse, honestly, at the end of the day. But it's probably something you pick up if you're doing a Hef build, right? I think you just throw it in a low C. Martial Fart. That's his infusion. You deal like 5% more attack and special damage for each rock you have. I think it's actually quite weak. Legitimately. And I find myself almost never taking it. Almost never. I'm gonna put it below Anvil Ring. Boom. Premium Service. You rank up your aspect and they're stronger. Most of these are really good. There's a couple that are bad. But I think it's still S tier at the end of the day. I think it's still S tier because most of the time it's really, really good. Most of the time it's really good, I do think. All right, we're on to Hera. Her attack, which simply applies Hitch and has a decent percentage. Hitch is a good effect. Strong effect. Very good effect, I'd say. I would probably prefer her attack over Apollo's half the time. So she's beaten it. I don't think it's S. I think it belongs somewhere up there, though. For special, similar. I think it's like pretty much the same conditions, basically. Very, very similar. Engagement Ring. I actually don't like her cast as much. It does apply Hitch, but it just doesn't feel as good as many of the other cast effects. And I'd rather just take her attack or special in those circumstances. It's kind of like you're much better off having her attack and special and then Arctic Ring, rather than having Demeter's attack or special for a much lower percentage in Engagement Ring, personally. So I think Engagement Ring falls pretty far down here. Next to, not too far down, because at least it applies a curse. You know, it does a little bit of something. Yeah, let's drop it in the B's somewhere, I guess, you know, at the end of the day. Nexus Rush, that's her dash. I mean, this is a tough one. Because you have to kind of sprint into enemies to make good use out of it. You have to sprint near the enemy is how we describe it. You can't just dash. It's okay. I think it's okay. You think it's okay? I think it's okay. I think it still belongs in the C's at the end of the day. I don't find myself taking it too often because I don't really want to have to think about using it. Force myself to consider it, if that makes sense. That's why I'm looking at it. Born Gain. We'll put that right up there. Very good. That's our magic regen. Extended Family, deal more damage based on how many Olympians you are, but it's only Olympian damage. It's a pretty solid take. I mean, it's a guaranteed like 30% damage most runs. Maybe not that much. Depends on the rarity, you know what I mean? But it's only Olympian damage, so it only affects Splash, Blitz, you know, things like that. Not attack and special damage. So there's some times where you might not want to use it if you're doing like an axe build and you're only using the whirlwind for the most part, but it's still better than a lot of these other damage increases, I'll admit. Would I take it more often than Shatitude? It just depends, really. I'm gonna put it in the A's somewhere, though. Dying Wish, that's the one where enemies explode on death if they have hitch on them. I never take it. I can't feel it. I can't feel it. I'm asking myself, is it in yet? I think it belongs in F. It's just not very good. Bridal Glow, similar to Sneesnar. Sometimes it's amazing, but half the time you don't want to take it. You know what I mean? But it's fun. Can we agree? It gets some fun points here. It gets some fun points. I'm gonna drop it in the B. I'm gonna drop it in the B, okay? Hereditary Bane. Enemies with Hitch take more damage and Hitch lasts even longer. I take it more often than Dying Wish, but not a whole lot. Again, it's just something like... or is it Hitch deals more damage? Hitch deals more damage, I believe, is the actual thing here. Is it actually D? It's a high D if it is. Yeah. Rousing Reception. If you have your cast down, an enemy will take a little bit of damage when it spawns in. After the first 2 zones in the underworld, this does next to nothing. You know what I mean? And if you're on the surface, it never does anything, I'm afraid, right? I know, like, you see us take it in, like, a speed run for, like, very specific instances, but it's just, you know, I think most people should not be taking this boon very often, is the way I'm looking at it. Honestly. Uncommon Grace is so infrequent that you can take it. So, you deal more damage, global damage, so it affects everything, if you have no common boons. It works with her infusion, right? But it's so rarely you should ever take it. Because if you don't already have her infusion, you probably shouldn't even consider it, honestly. You probably should not even consider it. If it's even being offered, well, that's the other thing. They won't offer it unless you have no commons already. So does that make it better since, you know, you can't totally screw yourself over? I don't know. Sure. Put in D now then. Okay. Zoom out. Zoom out, chat. All right, Fine Line, S tier, amazing boon. Every time you use an Omega, I'm going to put it up there. Every time you use an Omega move, you shoot out, a lightning line or whatever that deals a monster amount of damage, but it costs 15 more magic to cast it. It's just really good. It's just really, really good, honestly. It's very good. People underrate it, I think. Or people don't think hard enough about it. Combine it with Born Gain, it is so, so, so good. Trust. Trust in me. Proper Uppering, that's her infusion. It's hard to activate because you need 2 of every element, but it means that all commons now are uncommon. Yeah, it's just too infrequent it becomes useful, so I think it's kind of down here, honestly. You just don't get to use it very often. And even then, it might not affect boons you care about. It usually affects Hermes boons, if anything, right? Altogether, that's her legendary. It's good, right? You get, 4 infusions, and you get 1 of every element? You often whiff on 50%. The fun factor is very high on it, though. Can we agree? The fun factor is very high on Altogether. I think we can agree on that, right? All right, we're on to Ares. Oh, no. Oh, boy. All right. Ares' attack. So it's all about wounds, right? It's all about wounds, I guess. And how good is wounds? Oh, boy. I think you would only take his attack because you need a curse at that point. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's as bad as Demeter, though. Only because, again, Demeter gives the option to apply freeze with the cast, mostly. So I think Ares' attack is going to be down here. The percentage is too low, and the cooldown for waiting for wounds takes too long, honestly. It has its uses, and I think the special is basically in the same boat because the percentage are basically the same thing, you know what I mean? Now then, Sword Ring is, I'm going to call it an exceptionally bad cast boon, honestly. Like, it's quite bad. Even with the duo boons, it's not very good. I'm looking at these boons and like, yep, I'd take that before Sword Ring. I'd take that before Sword Ring. If you get the duo boons, then it's usable. But you don't get the duo boons first. You have to get Sword Ring first and deal with it. And it's too much of an investment. It's not good. Stabbing Rush, similar thing. Possibly worse than Sword Ring. You know, it doesn't slot into builds easily. The only way these two boons would be okay is if you are forcing the dual boons to appear, honestly. It's not good, though. His core boons are not very good. Grizzly Gain, I actually feel like Grizzly Gain is not as bad as I probably would have rated it, like, a few weeks ago. I think Grizzly Gain is actually not too bad nowadays. I'm gonna proclaim out here. I will proclaim it. Do I think it's better than Tranquil Gain? I would rather deal with Grizzly Gain than Tranquil Gain. I will give it that much. Because I think it's 15 magic per plasma. It depends on the weapon. Depends on the build. How often are you striking the enemies? Do you have any on-hit effects as well? You know, are you spending a lot of magic for a little magic? It kind of depends. It kind of depends. Meat Grinder. Again, the issue comes down to Meat Grinder. You deal damage. You spawn a Beyblade when you use your Omega cast. Or is it after the fact? And it doesn't make them stay in there or anything like that. The damage just isn't very impressive. And you don't use Omega cast often. I think it's bad. I'm going to go ahead and call it bad. You don't want it. You don't want it. You don't need it, chat. It's pretty bad. Yeah, it's going pretty far down the list here at this point. Yeah, about that. Sure, whatever. Profuse Bleeding. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. When you hit an enemy with wounds, they might spawn a plasma, but the percentage is unusually low. And the thing with plasma is that it's just not great, usually. It's very inconsistent where and when special and attack speed is good. Like what weapons it's good for and what weapons it's not. And this is just a bad way to spawn plasma if you do want to spawn plasma. Honestly, it's a notch above Dazzling Display. Grievous Blow, there you go. A little bit of redemption for Ares there, honestly. Chance to deal double damage when enemies have wounds on them. It brings it back. I don't think it's A because it requires you to use his attack or special, right? So I don't think it's fair to put it in S, I should say there. Is it S because if you do have his attack or special, then you want to have it. Fine, I'll put it in S. Fine, I'll put it in S. Visceral Impact, this is the best plasma effect. You can get the most plasma drops out of it. Out of this versus the others. Actually, Grizzly Gain, again, could be okay. But, again, you don't want plasma. So, I still think it belongs in F, but I'll give it a high F or something like that. You know what I mean? I guess. That's when you get hit. You spawn plasma when you get hit or when you kill an enemy. Mutual Destruction, you have a chance to deal double damage based on how much health you have missing. It's a pretty solid take for a damage booster. It really depends on your build. You're going to want a lot of max health, is the thing. But I guess for so many builds, that would be the case. But I would usually rather take G-Blow, assuming it's active, right? So it's somewhere up here. It's a take. It's a take. Blood Spree, it's a good defensive most of the time. The higher in the fear you get, the less good it kind of becomes because enemies are going to hit harder for a variety of reasons. If you turn on Rivals, if you turn on Vow of Pain, or something like that. But usually, if you're just kind of trying to win a run, Blood Spree is commonly a good defensive boon to have. Enemies start to hit too hard, though, and the 40 health thing is kind of not enough eventually. So I think I'm going to drop this B-Boy somewhere in the A's, I'm thinking, right? Cut Above, I think it's really bad. So your Omegas put a sword drop on enemies, basically. It's not a curse, though. Your Omegas also cost 5 more magic. I think it's really bad. Again, if you get the duos, like with Sword Ring or Stabbing Rush, it becomes okay, but only at that junction. It takes too long to proc. That's kind of the big problem I have with it. Cut Above takes too long to proc. It doesn't need to be instant, but it's too long, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You're gonna follow your brethren down here with Sword Ring. Rallying Cry. 8 rock is required, but then you have plus 50% Olympian damage. Again, Olympian damage, plus damage to things like Blitz and Splash, Hef Blast as well. If you have 8 rock, then chances are you're going to get a good use out of Rallying Cry. Do I take the condition of meeting it into consideration here? I've been kind of inconsistent with that, I'll admit, right? Rallying Cry, I mean, if you get that bad boy poppin', it's going to be good, I'm going to say. I think it belongs in S, somewhere up there, right? If you can get it to go, I think it is worthy of it. The Legendary from Ares, you automatically pull in all your plasma, and it's worth twice as much. This is kind of a tough one, right? Because I was making fun of plasma. Weirdly, the sword drop stuff was all wound up below the plasma. This is the worst legendary, I think. Weirdly, okay, hold on. The effect of the legendary is probably okay. It gets some fun points. I'm going to give you that much. I think it gets some fun points, but again, the issue kind of comes down to the usefulness of plasma. The usefulness of attack and special speed is very inconsistent. Also, when you wind up stuck with 100% move speed, that's often not good, honestly. You don't want that much move speed. Mel gets slippery, and it might be tougher to line yourself up into specific positions, you know? It's kind of not good, for the most part, to get that move speed from it. It does have a fun factor, I'll give it that much. But I think it's just not a very good legendary. I know I've done quite a few runs where we get it, but it's mostly for funniness than it is for, I want to make this build good. There's just too few builds where getting a lot of plasma is very useful, honestly. There's too few builds, I think. All right, we got Hermes Boons here. We're almost at the end, chat. You proud? Nimble Limbs. Your attack and special speed is a little bit higher. Yeah, I think it's overrated by people pretty often, but maybe it's not F tier. I know, I was just making fun of attack and special speed and how inconsistent it is, but at least here, you're not... It's just one boon you're investing in. And half the time, Hermes isn't really giving you something that you're super interested in otherwise, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's not the worst. Racing Thoughts, your Omega channel speed is faster, 15% of common. I take this way more often than Nimble Limbs, and you probably should be too if you're using any amount of Omegas. There's some Omegas where you don't get much of a benefit, but it probably belongs in A, honestly. Winter Circle, your cast gets channeled faster and diminishes faster. So there's a lot of builds where you don't want Winter Circle or you don't need Winter Circle, but this activates actually some fun builds. This has a fun factor multiplier going on for it. Because I feel like this one boon from Hermes practically activates a whole new build archetype where you start manually casting your Omega cast. You don't need Aspect of Charon. You don't even necessarily need Aspect of Circe. But this also combos with things like Glowing Coal. It combos with Lightning Lance. There's some casts it's not very good with, you know what I mean? Or rather, it doesn't make the cast worse usually, but it doesn't actually help the cast, you know? If you get Howling Soul from Hades, that's a benefit, and then you can go into Omega cast-centric things. I think it gets a fun factor boost. Am I really going to put it in A? I'm going to put it in A. Nitro Boost. I take it pretty often. You get a little bit of move speed. No, I don't think I do take it very often in a casual fun run or something like that. Nitro Boost, you get a little bit of move speed, and it blocks 1, 2, or 3 hits depending on the rarity while you are sprinting only. It's kind of whatever. It's right next to Nimble Limbs, honestly. Stutter Step, the cooldown of your dash is reduced up to 35%, I believe. I don't know. Do you all like Stutter Step? I think it's a little bit better than some of the other ones, but not significantly, I think. Not significantly. Hasty Retreat, you get some dodge per boon in your inventory. It's a simple boon. You get a good effect from it. You should probably consider taking it half the time. It's up here, honestly. It's up here somewhere. Hard target. Enemy projectiles move slower. Weirdly, I'd probably rate it above Stutter Step for the average casual run, honestly, because I think it'll help a little bit more than that half the time, you know? Quick Buck, you get some money now, and you get more money for the rest of the run. It's usually but just better than half of these. Is that weird? It could just be because Hermes boons are kind of very hit or miss, you know what I mean? Very hit or miss. I think Quick Buck is kind of worth it somewhere up here in the high A's, honestly. Yeah, let the cash flow. Mean Streak, you deal more damage for each enemy you kill, but then it starts to diminish over time is the best way I can describe it. I don't know. I kind of just don't know about it, honestly. I don't feel it when we have it. It just doesn't feel like it does anything. Is it really worthy of F? For some reason, I feel like it is. For some reason, I feel like it is. Travel deal. You can respawn a reward in a shop, and you get a small discount. Very small. But nevertheless, the fact that you get to re-roll or refresh with one item in the shop, it's a big deal. It's honestly a very big deal, I think. I think it's better than half these other ones. I think it's better than Quick Buck half the time. It does depend on a few things, but yeah. Success rate, higher percent chance for your percent chance effects to trigger. It's amazing. It's S. It's up there in the S's, honestly. Well, I mean, it depends. You're only going to get it offered if you have a percent chance thing already on yourself. But when you do get it offered, it's probably better than most of the other Hermes boons. You know what I mean? It's probably better than most of the other Hermes boons. It does depend on a few things. Like if you have some crit chance from Artemis, it's going to help it. You know what I mean? Tall Order, if you have 8 of any one element, you deal 25% more damage, I think, from everything, is my understanding. Again, so do I have to treat it like Rallying Cry and assume that you have it? Because 25% more global damage is very good, but the condition is hard to meet, much like Rallying Cry. But I guess if I gave Rallying Cry S, you kind of got to give Tall Order S then, if I'm halfway ignoring it. You know, kind of depends, right? Paid dues, that's the Hermes Legendary. You take less damage, but you spend money to do so, basically, right? You spend gold to do so. It's incredibly rare for it to appear. Hermes has a negative chance on rarity. That's why you often see only common Hermes boons. You're less likely to see higher rarity Hermes boons in general. Which means it's even harder to see as legendary. You can only get it from the second Hermes boon that you pick up as well. You only need it. I don't think you need any particular Hermes boon, but it just needs to be the second Hermes boon. The thing is, it's kind of costly. You need a lot of money, right? You need a lot of money. But I think even when it does appear, I don't take it very often. And I think it's kind of anti-fun also. It has a fun demultiplier, if that makes sense, right? Because if you do take it too early in a run, it sucks up your money. You don't get to spend money at the shops. That's not fun. Doesn't that suck? It's okay. It's fine if it's in the last shop, I guess, but you probably don't have a ton of money. Or if you do, it's like you kind of want to buy the other things in the shop, probably. So I think it loses out even to Sanguinary Savior. However, the effect is powerful if you have the gold for it. So I'm going to drop it and see. Boom. There you go. That's my all boons tier list. You happy, chat? You pleased with it? Everyone agrees wholeheartedly, right? We can all agree on these boons, I think 100% of the time. Now, the duo boons aren't here, but I do have a separate video just for those. We did miss out on some other boons, like from Artemis and from, like, Dionysus here. I'm afraid they just weren't on the tier list. Maybe we'll do another video for those or something like that. I don't even know. I don't even know. Support Fire, F tier. That's all you need to know. Most of the crit chance things are S tier. And Easy Shot is also... Easy Shot, hold on, I'm going to please you right now. Easy Shot is even worse than Support Fire, so at least you got that for yourselves. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye.